Welcome back to the OHIO podcast. I am your host, Buckeye Boggs, aka the Podfather, and this is a redneck hillbillies from Alabama cannot deal with reality part 2 edition of the OHIO podcast. You're a Buckeye fan, you know what to do. Hit that thumbs up, smash that like button. If you're not, well, you should do it anyways just because you're a kind human being and that's what kind human beings do. However, this is probably not going to be a very kind video, and so if you get mad and upset and decide to want to argue with me in the comments section below, you'll be helping out in your own weird algorithm way. Okay, and we appreciate that as well. By the way, we're the official Ohio State podcast of Fansided and Scarlet and Game. Head over to scarletandgame.com. If you don't like the way my face looks, I don't blame you. You can listen to the audio version of the podcast over at Scarlet and Game or wherever you download your podcast. Feel free, if you do, give us a 5-star review. We appreciate that very much. Helps us get into the earbuds of more Buckeye fans, much like yourself. We're also the official Ohio State podcast of The College Huddle. Head over to thecollegehuddle.com where you can find us, 75 other of our closest friends from coast to coast, including Alabama. That's right, the Bama Factor's over there as well. You can check them out, download them, listen to their content as well. So, Alabama and the scum, the trash from up north, played each other in the no one gives a darn, no one cares Reliaquest Bowl. And what's funny about that is you will never catch me saying the words high tide. By the way, I love that commercial. It's freaking hilarious. And unless they play scum, if you guys play the maize and blue, I would obviously root for you because unlike the SEC, those of us who actually enjoy the beauty of college football and the love-hate relationship you have with your rival, you want to see your rival not succeed but fail because that brings you joy as well. However, down in the South, y'all ride each other's coattails like a bunch of soft sissies because that's what you do when you can't succeed on your own. Looking at you, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. And so you chant SEC, SEC every chance you get when your rivals win big games for you because you can't do that. And spare me the we won a big game Ole Miss crowd. You beat Duke. Duke. That being said, I love the banter with you Bama hillbillies. It's a lot of fun. Some of you are actually really intelligent football people, and I appreciate that and I commend that. But some of you are really dumb, and it cracks me up. So let's dive into some of what you all are talking about and react to it, shall we? This ought to be a lot of fun. Oh, the person you all call GOAT, we call him Nick Saban. He was NIL before NIL was legal. According to Mike Rodick, he said that Nick Saban on College Game Day stated that Alabama's loss to that team up north was because of turnovers just kill you in a game. And obviously, Alabama had 2 or 3 of them early in the game. Michigan's guys played well in the game. I don't think Alabama did. I think one of the big things that's always been an issue is for all these teams that have a chance to get in the playoffs and don't, it's always a huge letdown when you go play, not to take anything away from Michigan, a huge letdown when you play in a bowl game. Well, that might be true, Nick. That might be true when you have high expectations. I get it. We've seen it at Ohio State. Back when there was a 4-team playoff and it wasn't 12, and we would go play in a bowl game that wasn't necessarily a big time game, you would see the team play have a letdown in some of those bowl games, or players would opt out and not play. We saw that with Michigan. They had players not even play that game. Some of the best players they had on the defensive line, on the defensive side of the ball, didn't even play in that game. They don't want to chance getting injury and hurting their opportunity at big money in the NFL, right? Losing draft status because of it. That being said, that being said, I think it speaks a lot about your culture. No, by the way, to just be completely open and honest and absolutely transparent here in this video, we saw this last year in Ohio State when they went to the Cotton Bowl and played your beloved Tigers from the SEC, Mizzou, and we lost 14-3 in a game where Kyle McCord opted out and decided to transfer, and we had guys not playing in that game, including Marvin Harrison Jr. and the offensive line, which was completely inept in that football game, and we couldn't do anything offensively. So, not making excuses. It's reality. It is what it is. You all laughed and we took that 14-3 L on the chin from Missouri. You all laughed. Some of you love to bring it up. So, excuse me, Nick Saban, for throwing it back in your face when you say, it's hard to get up for those games when you can't play in them, when you all's laughing at us because Missouri beat us in the Cotton Bowl last year 14-3. But now that the shoe's on the other foot, now that that's you, and by the way, not because it's a 14 playoff and you didn't make it, it was a 12-team playoff and you didn't make it. And spare me the whole, we probably should have. We were one of the better teams. You guys lost to a pair of 6-6 teams, including Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, who got smoked in their bowl game too, by the way. And you just lost to Michigan, who had no shot at making the college football playoff. So spare me that argument. We're not even going down that path again. I already said you all couldn't deal with reality the first time because of it, because of that and NIL, evening the playing field. So spare me those arguments, okay? You don't get it both ways, Bama. All right, here we go. Let's enjoy what you all have to say here in the comments section. Let's roll. This ought to be a lot of fun. Craig Johnson, and by the way, I haven't read any of these, so this is just going to be real time. And I already know what a lot of you are going to say because you all are. Anyways, Craig Johnson, I agree. Not being in the playoffs was disappointing, but Bama just didn't earn a spot this year. See, this is why I can respect some of you, Craig. You can see reality. Regarding not being up for the bowl game versus Michigan, that's on Deboer, plain and simple. He's failed this team twice before in preparing them for the games. Alabama just wasn't ready for Vanderbilt or Oklahoma. I can forgive the Tennessee loss, even though I hate it with every ounce of my being. Craig Johnson, hats off to you. You are one of the few smart fans if you live in Alabama. If you don't live in Alabama, at least one of the few smart ones who root for the Crimson Tide. Hats off to you. So right off the bat, hey man, first one up out of the gate, looking good. Jason Kirby, they still should have showed up and played. Roll Tide. Yeah, I agree. They still, if you have, and let me address this. If you are an athlete, and I know a lot of you who are watching this video played at least some point in your life, played athletics, whether it was in high school, college, etc. You compete. If you compete, you want to win, no matter what. If you're going to play the game, you want to win. You play to win the game, right? I mean, it's still true. It absolutely is still true. If you're not going to try to win the game, what are we doing? What are we doing? But if you're going to play the game, you play to win the game. So if you're going to play in the Reliaquest Bowl, if you're going to accept the invite to play, go play. Go be a good teammate. Go give your best effort. I agree completely with that comment. 2 for 2, Bama fans. 2 for 2. William Van Kuren, he can't be serious with this excuse. Apparently he is, William. Apparently he is, but he's your GOAT. Remember, SEC was not very good and Alabama was average. That's why they lost. Same reason they lost to Oklahoma. Chris probably is not an Alabama fan, I'm guessing by that comment, because that is in your face with the whole SEC thing from up front. Jackson Snyder, they didn't have their best players. There we go. Didn't have the best players. I thought everybody on Bama was the best player. I thought you were one of the deepest programs in the country. I thought you had 5 stars just oozing out of your ears. Don't you recruit better than everybody else? Isn't Bama equipped to go 2, 3, 4 deep if they have to? Isn't that who you are? Shouldn't you be able to roll out of bed, play your second string, and beat lowly Michigan? Shouldn't that be who Alabama is? I mean, if Nick Saban was still coaching, wouldn't that be who Nick Saban was? But apparently, you don't have your best players. By the way, didn't you have your starting quarterback? He didn't play very good either. Eric Perks. I've been saying the same thing, and no one wants to believe that. Bowl games don't mean anything. Michigan didn't beat Bama. Bama beat themselves. Michigan, Bama beat themselves. Michigan, Michigan couldn't even move the ball. Coach Saban is right. Eric Perks, he is your Bama fan. He drinks the Bama Kool-Aid. Don't give a darn about nobody but Bama. Roll Tide. I mean, that is, Eric, you are quintessential Alabama fan. Quintessential Southern hillbilly redneck. Don't get it. That is perfect. Thank you, Eric Perks. You made this video feel right. Thank you. Joe, we got another one. Saban is right. You play for championships at Alabama. You don't play in meaningless exhibitions where players opt out at halftime. Bama's performance is not indicative of its team. Big word using indicative, Joe. These are the facts. Okay. Get used to not playing for championships anymore, Joe, because NIL has made the playing field level. Teams like Ohio State, teams like Michigan, teams like Notre Dame, teams like Oregon, all of a sudden, because of NIL, are allowed to play on the same playing field as Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Florida. Yes, that's right. I mentioned a bunch of teams from the SEC, Auburn, all of which have been found caught paying players under the table illegally before NIL was allowed to be used. And because of that, SEC ran the table for a couple decades. Now, all of a sudden, because you can play players, you're watching Michigan get 5 stars, Ohio State getting 5 stars, Notre Dame getting good players. And by the way, the transfer portal also helps that out. Absolutely, 100%. It levels the playing field, and all of a sudden, you guys can't handle it. You can't deal with it. Tony, it was an observation on how easily you lose focus when you are faced with disappointment. It wasn't a command. Well, Tony, I don't think Nick Saban was commanding anybody. He was giving an opinion, number one. Number two, your comment says it was an observation. Here's an observation for you. You guys weren't as good as you thought you were. Did you observe that? Because I observed you through 12 games in the regular season look like a very flawed football team. And going into the season, toot, toot, going to toot my own horn. I told you all, I tried to warn you, Chris and I here at the OHIO podcast, we tried to warn everybody, do not expect Alabama to roll into the season and be a top-tier program. You don't lose someone like Nick Saban, the roster you had, and just plug and play with someone who's never done it before. That doesn't happen. That's not reality. Can Deboer get this team to a college football playoff yet next year? Yes. Yes, he can. But if he does, look at how things went for Georgia this year. Look at how they went for Tennessee. Look at how they're going for Texas. It's not easy. It's not going to be a cakewalk. You aren't just going to be able to roll your crimson helmets out on the field with all your 5 stars and beat somebody down and expect to win a national championship 7 out of 14 years or however many it was, 7 out of 15, whatever it was. It's not going to happen, guys. That is not reality anymore. It's not. Face it. Let's got Daryl here. Daryl says, "Who else read this in Saban's voice?" I did not. I read it in hillbilly voice. Marty Miller, Nick is right. So Jalen needs to go pro. Okay. I don't think he needs to go pro at all. He needs another year. He absolutely needs another year. And if you are saying that because you don't want Jalen Milroe as your quarterback next year, then I get it, I guess. I get your comment, I guess. I guess. Interesting. Kevin, defense played lights out. They are putting a bad position in the first quarter. They were put in a bad position in the first quarter is what I believe Kevin meant to say. The defense was very impressive. Yeah, you're right. You're right. The defense did play well. But there's two other aspects of football. You have offense, and you have special teams. And if you don't win two of the three, at least, then you're probably not going to win the football game. So you can pat the defense on the back all you want, but you got to play better offense as well. Tom says the godfather of NCAA football has spoken. Winky face. Well, I'm the podfather, and I'm speaking now, so enjoy. David says, always an excuse. No wonder they lose to Michigan. Always an excuse. No wonder they lose to Michigan. They've lost to Michigan twice in a row now. Join the club, Bama fans. Wait till you lose to them 4 times in a row. That's painful. Um, Fennell says we always had a dominant offensive line. You did, and you didn't this year. Brad says, oh, he tagged somebody in it. Good for you, Brad. Tagged a female in it. Oh, he tagged his wife or sister, maybe. I don't know. They got the same last name. Kegels. What a name. Kegels inshore fishing. Deboer dresses like a slob and his team plays sloppy. Period. What an idiot hire, this guy. Ooh. He does look sloppy on the sideline, doesn't he? But I don't know that constitutes why the team plays sloppy. I don't know. Interesting comment though. Tony G says abolish the bowl system. Not gonna happen. Dumb comment. It's not going to happen because there's too much money in the bowl system. It's what they've had for decades upon decades in college football. Used to be, by the way, you had one bowl game. That was it. You had to be conference champion in order to make it to that bowl game, and that was the only one there was. And if you weren't conference champion, you didn't go to a bowl game. And then they created more bowl games, and then they created more bowl games. Now they got Pop-Tart bowls, and they got the Gin and Juice Bowl, and they got the Barstool Sports Bowl, and you name it. There's a bowl for it, right? But they're never going to do away with the bowl system because there's too much money in it, buddy. Follow the money. Let's see. I'm not going to read that because it's a Michigan fan. Jason says this was the worst prepared team in America. Little hyperbolic, but I'll accept it. I think that there were some worse prepared teams this year. Teams who didn't even make bowl games. I would say would be, you might want to look at them more than Alabama. But obviously not a Deboer fan. See, I tried to tell you all, I tried to warn you, Bama fans. This was not going to be an easy fix. You weren't just going to plug and play someone like Deboer in there and think you were going to be national champions still. It's not that easy, okay? So Kevin wants to change everything. All right, so uh, he says, I still say it would be much better if there were 20 conferences, 20 conference champions, 10 CFPs, one national champion. Interesting. Only way to give every team a legitimate chance at a national championship, and it would be done very easily. I kind of need to explore that further. I like that. Um, Bobby Dayton says, I really don't believe the SEC is the best conference. The best conference fluctuates. With the transfer portal, a top 10 recruiting class doesn't necessarily mean you have it in the future. I am from the South, but I believe Ohio State will win the national championship. And then someone laughed at him. Patricia laughed at Bobby. Who's laughing now, Patricia? Who's laughing now? Mikey says Saban is gone. His word is no longer the absolute authority. Ooh, there you go. Mikey making comments back. Couple more. James says, just telling the truth, so he's on the Saban train. Saban never lies. He tells the truth always. He's the GOAT. He's Nick Saban. He's a saint. Okay, James. Brian says, crying. Funny how he didn't say the same thing last year when Georgia didn't make it after only losing by 3 and being excluded. Ooh. I wonder if Brian's a Dogs fan. Steve Smith, 4-loss Bama team. Really, Deboer? Question mark. Did Saban leave you that kind of mess? Ah, yes, Steve. Good one to end on. Let's explore that a little bit. Nick Saban did not leave Deboer an empty cupboard. He didn't. Deboer is a good coach. We saw what he did with Washington. He's won pretty much everywhere he's went. The thing about Deboer is this, and this is how I'm going to close this video. And I've said this multiple times. We're experiencing it right now in Columbus, Ohio. You don't want to be the guy who replaces a legend. You want to be the guy who replaces the guy who replaced the legend. Case in point. Let's look at what happened at Ohio State with sweater vest himself, Jim Tressel. Legend. He's let go. In steps Luke Fickell. Disastrous year, 6-7. Players, four of your best players were ineligible to play. You go 6-7. Out you go. In steps Urban Meyer. He wasn't the guy who replaced Tressel. He was the guy who replaced the guy who replaced Tressel. Urban's gone. In steps Ryan Day. Cupboard wasn't bare. Had a good enough roster his first year to make it to the college football playoff with Urban's roster. Absolutely. No one's arguing that point. The further away from Urban Meyer Ryan Day got, the less impressive his teams became. Until recently. But even then, he was 10-2 in the regular season this year with this roster. So let's not kid ourselves here. There's still 2 more games for Ryan Day to go to win his first national championship. But if he doesn't, the pressure is going to be back on him again. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. And Deboer's a lot like Ryan Day right now. He replaced the legend, and the cupboard wasn't bare, and the expectations were high. And keeping that level of play at the tip top of those expectations is not easy. You want to be the guy, and this is why I think Dan Lanning didn't take the job, to be quite honest with you. You don't want to be the guy who replaces the legend. You want to be the guy who replaces the guy who replaced the legend. Like, share, subscribe. Let us know what you think in the comments section below. We appreciate you watching this video. If you've made it to this point in the video, congratulations. You're one of the few. You absolutely love me or you hate me. Either way, I want to hear from you. Appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Till next time, be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH in Carmen, Ohio with all your heart.